Before you warm up those leftovers in your refrigerator tonight, I want you to stop for just one moment because the food you are about to reheat might be perfectly safe, or it might quietly be doing something to your body that you would never see, taste, or feel until years later. Most of us grew up believing that leftovers are simply free meals. Cook once, eat twice, save a little money, waste a little less. It feels smart, it feels responsible, and most of the time, it truly is. But there are a handful of common foods that change on the inside when they meet heat a second time. Not always, not in every kitchen, but often enough that some of the most respected health institutions in the world have quietly studied them for years. And here is the part that surprises people the most. The danger is usually not the leftover itself, it is the way we reheat it, how many times we reheat it, and how long it sat before we did. You have probably eaten these four foods this week. You may be planning to reheat one of them tonight. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly which four foods deserve a little more caution, what actually happens inside them when heat hits them again, the difference between a real risk and an internet scare, the warning signs your body may give you, and the simple calm changes that let you keep enjoying your food without the worry. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sophia Adams, and welcome back to the channel. Here we take the everyday health worries that older adults are so often told to just live with, and we slow them down and explain what may really be happening inside the body. Clear science, real research, and practical steps you can actually use in your own kitchen and your own life. No fear, no guessing. Just honest guidance from someone who wants you to stay healthy and independent for as long as possible. So, let's begin with the truth that almost nobody tells you. Most of the frightening headlines about reheated food are exaggerated. That is the honest truth, and I would rather you hear it from me than from a scary post online. Reheating your dinner in the microwave does not give you cancer. Warming up your soup is not a threat. Your body is far more resilient than the internet gives it credit for. But, and this is the important part, a few specific foods do carry real, well documented concerns when they are heated the wrong way or stored the wrong way. And because so many of the online warnings mix truth with nonsense, most people end up worrying about the wrong foods entirely while quietly repeating the habits that actually matter. Let me give you one perfect example before we go further. You have probably heard that reheating rice can be dangerous. And there is truth in that. But notice what kind of danger it is. Reheated rice, when it has been left sitting out too long, can grow a bacterium that causes food poisoning, a stomach bug, cramps, nausea, a miserable night. That is a food safety problem, and it is a real one. But it is not a cancer problem. Two completely different things blended together online until nobody knows what to be careful about anymore. So today, I want to separate the noise from the science. I want to walk you through four foods where the concern is genuinely about long term health, explain what heat actually does to them, and then hand you a plan so simple that you can start using it tonight. Before we get into the four foods, I have one small question for you, and I really do read the comments. When you make a meal, do you tend to reheat your leftovers once, twice, or do you sometimes warm the same dish up again and again over several days? There is no wrong answer. I just want you to notice your own habit because it matters more than you might think. Write it down in the comments if you feel comfortable, one time, two times, or more. Now let's begin. The first food I want you to think about is processed and cured meat. I'm talking about bacon, sausages, ham, hot dogs, salami, and the deli slices so many of us keep in the refrigerator for a quick sandwich. Here is what most people believe. They think that because these meats are already cooked or already cured, reheating them is completely harmless. Just a bit of warmth, that's all. But the science tells a more serious story, and this one is not an internet rumor. The World Health Organization, through its International Agency for Research on Cancer, reviewed more than 800 studies and reached a firm conclusion. Processed meat is classified as a Group 1 substance, meaning there is strong evidence linking regular consumption to an increased risk of cancer, particularly colorectal cancer. That is the same evidence category used for tobacco smoke. Now, please listen carefully because this is exactly where people panic for no reason. Being in the same evidence group as tobacco does not mean a slice of ham is as dangerous as a cigarette. It absolutely is not. It simply means the scientific evidence that a link exists is considered strong. The actual risk for one person from one meal remains small. So, where does reheating come in? Think of it this way. The processed meat already carries a small, built-in concern just by existing on your plate. When you take that same meat and blast it again at very high heat in a hot pan or a searing grill, you can add a second layer to the problem. High aggressive heat on these meats can encourage the formation of other unwanted compounds on the surface. The meat itself is the main issue. The high heat reheating can simply pile a little more on top. What does this mean for you in real life? It does not mean you can never enjoy bacon again. It means that reheating processed meats over and over at scorching temperatures, day after day, is the pattern to be cautious about. An occasional warm-up is not what worries the researchers. The daily habit, at high heat over many years, is. Now, the second food, and this one lives in almost every kitchen, quietly, right on the stovetop. Cooking oil that gets reused and reheated. Think about how often this happens. You fry something, the oil looks fine, so you leave it in the pan or pour it back into a jar. The next day, you heat that same oil again. A few days later, again. It seems thrifty, it seems harmless, the oil still looks golden, but here is what your eyes cannot see. Oil is not a stable thing when it meets high heat over and over. Picture a fresh rubber band. Stretch it once, it snaps right back. Stretch it 100 times in the sun over weeks, and it starts to crack and crumble. Reheated oil behaves in a similar way on a chemical level. Each time it is heated hot, especially to frying temperatures, it breaks down a little more. Research published through the National Institutes of Health has shown that repeatedly heated cooking oils produce a family of harmful compounds, including substances called aldehydes and certain aromatic hydrocarbons. Some of these compounds have been shown in laboratory studies to be genotoxic, meaning they can damage the genetic material inside cells. And that kind of damage, built up slowly over years, is exactly the kind of thing cancer researchers pay attention to. This is the part I really want you to hear. The concern here is not oil itself. Fresh oil, used once at a sensible temperature, is simply part of cooking. The concern is the reheating, the reusing, the same tired oil heated hot again and again until it has been through far more than it was ever meant to handle. If you have been keeping a jar of used frying oil by the stove and reaching for it over and over, this is one habit worth gently letting go of. And later in this video, I'll show you the simple, safe way to handle oil instead. Let me pause here for a moment because I know some of you are already recognizing your own kitchen in these examples. If this is helping you understand what actually matters and separating the real concerns from the internet noise, please tap the like button. It genuinely helps YouTube share this with other older adults who are trying to make sense of the same confusing headlines. And if you have been reusing oil or reheating meats at high heat without a second thought, tell me in the comments. There is no judgment here. Most of us were taught these habits by people we loved. Noticing them is the first step, and it is a good one. And if you'd like to keep learning the quiet health signals your body sends, subscribe to the channel so the next one finds you. Now, the third food, and this one catches almost everyone by surprise because it feels like the safest food in the house. Starchy foods cooked at high heat a second time. I'm talking about potatoes, fries, bread, and other starchy leftovers that get fried or crisped up again. Here is the misunderstanding. People assume a potato is just a potato, warm or cold, once or twice. Gentle reheating truly is fine. But something specific happens when you take a starchy food and cook it hard at high temperature, the kind of heat that turns the edges golden brown and crispy. When starchy foods are cooked at high temperatures, through frying, roasting, or heavy toasting, a natural chemical reaction takes place that creates a compound called acrylamide. You cannot see it or taste it, and here is the key detail. The browner and crispier that starchy food gets, the more acrylamide tends to form. The American Cancer Society explains that acrylamide forms in certain starchy foods during high-temperature cooking. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies it as probably carcinogenic to humans. Now, I want to be very fair with you because honesty matters more than drama on this channel. That classification is based mostly on animal studies using very high doses. The evidence in humans from normal food is not clear cut, and health agencies are careful to say so. The United States Food and Drug Administration has looked at this closely and does not tell people to stop eating fried or roasted foods. What it does recommend is simple. Cook starchy foods to a light golden color rather than a dark brown, and go easier on the high heat re-crisping. So the takeaway is calm and clear. A gently warmed potato is not your enemy. It is the habit of taking yesterday's fries or potatoes and blasting them hot until they are dark and crunchy again and again that slowly raises your exposure to something worth limiting. Golden, not brown. That's the whole idea. And now, the fourth food. This is the one wrapped in more myth than any other, so I want to handle it with real care. Nitrate-rich leafy greens like spinach and similar vegetables, when they are reheated at high heat or left sitting out too long. You have almost certainly seen the scary version of this online. Reheat your spinach and you'll poison yourself. Let me tell you what is actually true and what is exaggerated. Leafy greens like spinach are naturally rich in compounds called nitrates. Nitrates on their own are not villains. In fact, in your body, they can do some genuinely good things for circulation. But here is the chemistry. When cooked greens sit out too long or get reheated at high heat repeatedly, some of those nitrates can convert into nitrites, and under the right conditions, nitrites can go on to form compounds called nitrosamines, and some nitrosamines are classified as probable carcinogens. That sounds alarming. So let me give you the honest, grounded truth because you deserve it. Food safety experts and researchers who have looked closely at this agree that for a healthy adult, reheating properly stored spinach once in a normal kitchen is a very low risk. The theoretical pathway is real. The everyday danger, when the food is handled well, is small. The people who took this seriously enough to worry, when they examined it carefully, largely concluded that proper storage and gentle handling keep the levels well below anything concerning. So why include it at all? Because the pattern still matters, especially for older adults. Cooked greens left on the counter for hours, reheated on high over and over across several days. That is the situation where caution is reasonable, not the single, careful warm-up, the careless, repeated one. Now let me bring these four together, because a clear picture is worth more than four scattered warnings. Notice the thread running through every single one. Processed meats reheated at high heat. Oil reused and reheated again and again. Starchy foods cooked hard until dark. Greens left out and reheated repeatedly. In every case, the villain is not the microwave, and it is not the simple act of enjoying leftovers. The pattern is high heat, repeated heating, and poor storage, stretched across months and years. That is what the science actually points to. Gentle reheating of well-stored food is, for most of us, simply part of life, and that distinction matters more than you might realize, because getting it wrong costs you in two directions. If you believe every scary headline, you end up anxious about a bowl of soup while missing the habits that count. And if you dismiss all of it as nonsense, you keep the few patterns that genuinely deserve attention. The goal is not fear. The goal is knowing exactly where the line sits so you can relax about the rest. Now, before I give you the practical steps, I need to say this clearly, because your safety matters more than anything else in this video. None of what I've described tonight is about a single meal harming you. These are long-term patterns, but food safety in the short term is real too, and it can move quickly, especially as we get older and our bodies handle bacteria less easily than they once did. So please pay attention to these signs. If you eat a reheated meal and within a few hours you have severe vomiting, watery diarrhea, stomach cramps, fever, or dizziness, that may be food poisoning, and it can become serious for an older adult far faster than it does for a younger one. Do not simply wait it out if it is severe. Contact your doctor, and if you feel very unwell, very weak, or dangerously dehydrated, seek urgent medical help without delay. And please hear me on this. This video is here to educate and inform. It does not replace the personal advice of your own doctor who knows your history, your medications, and your body. If you have specific concerns about your diet and your cancer risk, especially if there is cancer in your family, that is a conversation to have with your physician, not with the internet. Now, here is your simple, calm action plan. 6 small changes, and not one of them requires you to give up the foods you love. Step 1. Reheat gently and reheat once. When you do warm up leftovers, use gentle heat and try to reheat only the portion you're actually going to eat. Reheating the same dish over and over across several days is the pattern to retire. Take out what you need, warm that, and leave the rest cold in the refrigerator. Step 2. Cool it fast. Refrigerate it fast. Don't let cooked food, especially rice and leafy greens, sit out on the counter for hours. Get leftovers into the refrigerator within about 2 hours of cooking. This one habit prevents more problems than almost anything else on this list. Step 3. Let go of the reused oil jar. Try not to reheat the same cooking oil again and again. Use fresh oil, use a sensible amount of heat, and when the oil has done its job, let it go. Your food will taste better, and you remove one of the more genuine concerns entirely. Step 4. Aim for golden, not brown. When you cook or recrisp starchy foods like potatoes and bread, stop at a light golden color instead of a dark, deep brown. Same comfort, same crunch, far less of the compound you'd rather limit. Step 5. Rethink the daily processed meat habit. You do not need to banish bacon or ham. Simply notice how often processed meats appear on your plate, especially reheated at high heat, and let them become an occasional pleasure rather than a daily routine. Small change, meaningful difference over the years. Step 6. When in doubt, cook a little less and fresh a little more. If a food worries you, the simplest answer is often to make a smaller amount and eat it fresh, rather than cooking a large batch and reheating it repeatedly. And anytime you have a specific health concern, bring it to your doctor or pharmacist. That is exactly what they are there for. Now, I want to speak to how you might be feeling, because I know this kind of information can stir up worry. Maybe you're sitting there thinking about all the years you reused that oil, or all the reheated dinners you've eaten, and a quiet fear is creeping in. Please let that go. You are not foolish for having these habits. Nobody handed us a chemistry lesson when we learned to cook. You learned from your mother, your grandmother, from a lifetime of doing your honest best with what you knew. Noticing something today and gently adjusting it is not a reason for guilt. It is a sign that you are still growing, still caring for yourself, still paying attention. And that, at any age, is something to be proud of. You are not overreacting for wanting to understand your food, and you are not weak for wanting to protect your health and your independence. You are simply doing the wise thing, which is learning where the real line sits, so you can stop worrying about the things that don't matter and quietly adjust the few that do. So, here is what I want you to carry away from today. Your leftovers are not out to get you. The microwave is not your enemy. For most foods, most of the time, reheating is perfectly fine. But 4 foods deserve a little extra care, and in every case, the lesson is the same: gentle heat over high heat, once over many times, fresh storage over food left sitting out. Get those few patterns right, and you can enjoy your food with a calm mind and a lighter heart. If this video helped you finally understand which warnings to take seriously and which ones to set aside, please tap the like button now. It truly helps this reach more older adults who are drowning in confusing headlines and just want the honest truth. Tell me in the comments which of these 4 surprised you the most, and whether you tend to reheat your food once, twice, or more. I read them, and they help me choose what to explain next. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because every week I break down another quiet health concern in a calm, clear, and practical way, just for us. And if you'd like to keep going right now, the video on your screen is the perfect next step. I'll see you there.